Hello. Welcome to episode 3. I have not recorded something for over 6 months, I think. I think the last one was, well, 6 months ago or more. And who am I for people that maybe are joining for the first time? So I'm Lauren. I am a hypnotherapist and I am horrendously, obsessively interested in the soul's evolution, in essence, and what it means to be with and feel our emotions and navigate that in this body, in this life form, in this current existence of humanity, and how we can bring wisdom and healing and transformation to not only ourselves but to others. And my predominant tool that I do this through is hypnotherapy, but I also do other embodiment practices. Now, this is a very impromptu recording because I was getting myself tied up in knots about like, oh no, you need to do this and set this up and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, no, we just need to get going because that is the kind of person I am. I just have to do things when inspiration strikes, which is good and bad and everything in between. So, the thing I want to talk about today is I've been having this conversation with people in my personal life quite frequently, which is this idea that the way I frame it is people struggle to really be with themselves. And what I mean by that is that to know who you are deep, deep, deep inside, deep, deep, deep down, to be able to sit with that, to be able to hear what that is telling you, and then to be able to own it, not control it, not contort it, but to own it and therefore walk with it into your life and through your life is something that people are not really able to do or don't want to do. I wouldn't say they're not able to. I think everybody or majority of people actually have the capacity. You're here. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have the capacity to develop. You know, we all have lessons that we're here to learn. That's what I believe, Earth School kind of energy. And the reason that a lot of, I think, avoidable pain is caused with people is because a large number of people are not willing to be with themselves. And that means that they are constantly seeking something external to themselves to validate them, to fill a void, to distract themselves from being with who they are. And it's sad. Like it's painful as someone who is like horrendously empathetic and intuitive. It is so painful to feel. I can feel it in you. And it is so disruptive in the sense that my heart kind of breaks for you. And it also means that unfortunately, if you are somebody who is not willing to be with yourself, you are very likely bleeding all over people around you. And obviously, that is not literally, but metaphorically, if you are not doing the work, then you are very likely causing an impact on the people around you because of that. So there's a lot of, with Instagram, it's like all these snapshots of wisdom. I'm sorry, you are not going to become enlightened via Instagram. Go and fucking do the work, go and spend the time meditating, go and dive into what it is to feel the emotions. Don't just like an infographic or a reel because somebody is validating a mental, cognitive thought process idea that you need to feel secure in yourself because you are actually the problem. I wasn't expecting to get that passionate then. And I've lost my train of thought. So basically, what was I saying? Yes, so hurt people hurt people. And this isn't a way also to shame people. You know, there's so much stuff that gets flung around, and it's really not helpful. It's really not helpful to judge another person and fling blame out there or shame or, and people use these ways of being, guilt, shame, as ways of control and manipulation. But there is let's to go back to the saying, hurt people hurt people. Unfortunately, when we are avoiding as individuals, when we are avoiding meeting that painful part of ourselves, that hurt that we are carrying, that is sitting within that painful part of ourselves, that we are actively trying to avoid, that avoidance is going to affect the people that you care about. It's as simple as that. And it might not even be close people. You know, a lot of the time this kind of does come up in romantic interactions, and the dynamics that can arise from that. And from my own experience, you really have to come back to yourself. You have to go down into that cave, into that void, into that part that you are so scared of, because that is where your freedom sits. That is where your freedom sits. I had a conversation with somebody towards the end of last year who kept saying, I am free, I am free. I was like, you're not free. You are shackled to your pain because you are so scared to sit with yourself, to dive into this pain that you have been carrying for whatever reason through your journey that you are constantly trying to get away from. So now not only do you have the origin of the pain, you have the compounding impact on top of that because you have spent years trying to find ways to avoid it. And obviously, this is a survival tactic. This is about self-preservation because when we go into those places, we often feel like, oh my God, I'm falling apart, I'm dying. And in some ways, yes, you are, because an old part of you is falling away, an old part of you that is not serving you, that is not here for your highest evolution and your highest development is dying, and it needs to die. And this is when we get into like ego structures. And the ego doesn't want you to grow and develop and access this part. Not because the ego is evil. We need to have an ego. Like, don't again, this narrative around ego being like, oh, it's your ego. You need an ego. You're a human being navigating a world with other human beings. You need an ego. An ego provides healthy boundaries. An ego helps provide a sense of like self and identity. But the problem is the over-identification with the ego. The ego is there to serve a purpose. It's kind of like the servant. Your soul is the master. The ego is the servant. The ego should be honoring the master, supporting the journey and the evolution, not being the one that you are following. And this is where there's often this problem because it's inverse. People are following the ego and using the soul to kind of like try and placate or manage that and serve the ego. And it's not there. The soul is not there to serve the ego. The ego is there to serve the soul. Uh, so I would love to, I've gone off on a rant as always. My podcasts are ranty. Maybe they're not ranty, maybe they're just inspired. Who knows? But anyway, if you have questions, I'd love to keep talking about this. But I feel like it's come to kind of like a natural loop. There's been some hopefully useful information or insight. And I would love to keep talking about this. These are the kind of conversations I love to have, to share, to consider, to also like dive in and do my own work. You know, I don't say this from a preachy position. I say this from a lived experience. I have had to confront myself, and I feel really sad actually as I'm saying this. I have had to confront myself so many times, and I have had to have a lot of ego deaths and adaptions in my being. And I have had to sit with some of the most horrendous emotions. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful. So I don't share this without walking the path. Like I'm so far down this fucking path, there is no turning back. Um, and there are many different tools and techniques that help a person to enter into that space, to come back and sit with themselves, to access the depth of emotion and perceived pain and actual pain that sits within us. But it's not just pain. That's also where love sits. And I'm not talking like the romantic, like ego validating love. I'm talking the kind of love that opens your chest, that makes you feel like you are filled with light and walking on air and just so connected to a higher place, a higher way of being, a higher way of living, that life just becomes this magical, beautiful existence. And I don't know about you, but that for me, that that's where I want to live. So on that note, I will bid you farewell. If you want to work with me, you're welcome to reach out. I would also love to hear comments, questions. I'm really interested in sharing more on this. So I will follow your guidance. Or even if you just like it, like the video, share the video, like help me to grow in that sense. I think the right people will find the video and get something from it. And I trust that. Have a wonderful day. Speak to you soon.